Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a bit of a journey, crossing a pretty significant boundary, actually.
We are.
We're looking at two distinct maritime spots on the Korean peninsula, Wonsan in North Korea and Jeju Island down in South Korea.
That's the plan. We've got this, well, fascinating set of notes that lets us compare how the sea shapes a place, definitely,
Right.
but also how history, politics, even tragedy kind of dictate what identity gets expressed.
So Wonsan first. DPRK, East Coast. It's a port, military hub.
And very much a controlled showcase, that's the key phrase, designed to project state power, state success.
Okay, contrasted with Jeju, an island, obviously,
Yeah.
but also politically distinct. It's a special self-governing province in the south.
With roots going way back, back to the independent Tamna Kingdom.
So the core contrast we're digging into is what? State curation versus a fiercely independent heritage.
Exactly, that's the tension.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Starting with that foundational heritage, Wonsan. Its identity feels very much tied to the state, right?
It really is. Inside North Korea, it's actively promoted as a tourist showcase city. The whole point is projection, showing off this modern beachside lifestyle. So its identity is fundamentally linked to fishing, shipping, but crucially, the naval presence.
And that huge tourist zone project.
The Wonsan Kalma Coastal Tourist Zone, yes, that's a signature Kim Jong-un project, a state-run luxury resort. It screams state control and state pride.
Right, a city defined by its function for the state, displaying a kind of manufactured modernity. Now, Jeju, that feels completely different, almost mythical.
It really does, doesn't it? Jeju's nickname is Samdedu, the island of three abundances.
Wind, women, and stone?
That's it. And you can't ignore its history as the Tamna Kingdom, independent for centuries before being fully absorbed. That runs deep.
And the women part of that abundance
Yeah.
that leads us to the Haenyeo.
Oh, the Hanya are absolutely central. These legendary female divers, some are quite elderly, still free diving, deep down for shellfish, abalone.
With no modern scuba gear, it's incredible.
It is. Yeah. And they're not just divers. They embody the island's resilience, its sort of matriarchal traditions in many communities. They work. Historically, they control property, a big part of the local economy.
That's a really striking contrast right there. Wonsan, state power, military pride, very patriarchal. Jeju, ancient independence, female strength in the Haenyeo, and this deep connection to, well, the earth. Shamanism.
Very strong shamanistic traditions tied to the sea, the volcanic stone, the mountain gods, and the Dollar Herbank statues.
The stone grandfathers.
Yeah, carved from basalt, like protector. So what's celebrated is just fundamentally different. State-driven power versus ancient natural and often female-led resilience.
That difference really sharpens when we look at how they deal with historical conflict and trauma. Both places have seen intense suffering.
Yeah, Wonsan was important during the Japanese occupation and industrial base. But its defining trauma, arguably, is the Korean War.
The blockade.
The blockade, exactly. One of the longest naval blockades in modern history. Over 800 days, the port was under siege.
That's hard to even imagine. Over 2 years. How does the state frame that today?
Well, the narrative transforms that suffering into glory, essentially. The Wonsan Revolutionary Museum, it doesn't dwell on the destruction.
No.
No, it highlights the military victory, the people's unbreakable spirit during the blockade. It's all framed as a national triumph against, the external enemy.
Okay, so the resilience is channeled outwards against an other. Jeju's big trauma, though. That's much harder to frame that way because it was internal.
Very much so. It's the incredibly sensitive memory of the Jeju Uprising, 1948 to 49.
Right before the Korean War proper.
Exactly. A really brutal internal conflict. You had local leftist, anti-communist groups, government forces. Estimates are around 30,000 civilians killed. It's a deep, deep scar on the island's identity.
So how does a place build its future on that kind of internal tragedy? That's a tough question.
Well, part of the answer seems to be seeking autonomy, preservation. Jeju really leaned into reclaiming its distinct identity, promoting its culture, ecotourism.
And pushing for that special status.
Right, becoming the special self-governing province in 2006. It's like they're consciously trying to define their own path, somewhat separate from the mainland's day-to-day political heat.
Let's shift to the everyday textures, the things that make a place feel real. Cuisine. And the notes mention something pretty wild for Wonsan.
Ah, yes, the clam BBQ.
Tell me about this.
Okay, so Wonsan, being coastal, is known for fresh seafood. Crab, clams, mussels, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But the way they do the clam barbecue, They apparently roast the clams directly on a bed of burning kerosene.
Wait, kerosene? Series?
Seriously, that's what the sources say.
Wow, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Practicality, maybe resource scarcity,
Yeah.
making do. It's not exactly gourmet fuel.
No, it definitely highlights a kind of ingenuity born from necessity, maybe.
Mhm.
Using an industrial fuel for cooking gives it a specific, maybe harsh flavor, but it works.
Okay, contrast that with Jeju. The food there seems to be all about abundance, from the sea and the land.
Totally. Jeju's famous for hoop dwaiji, the black pork BBQ. It's a huge deal there.
Right.
Then you've got rich abalone porridge, sea urchin soup things that the
Mm.
Haenyeo harvest, and from the land, the halabong tangerines, that signature citrus grown in the volcanic soil. It just tastes like Jeju.
So Wonsan, necessity, state-managed resources perhaps. Jeju, indigenous natural bounty. That separation feels even stronger when we talk language.
Yeah, in Wonsan, you'll hear the standard Pyongyang dialect, the public language. It's dominated by propaganda.
Slogans.
Slogans, mottos. Wonsan, the people's seaside paradise, or cradle of maritime strength and joy.
Yeah.
That kind of official language.
Functional, reinforcing ideology. Jeju, though, linguistically, it's a whole different world.
It really is. The Jeoeo dialect, UNESCO lists it as endangered. It's so different from mainland Korean. Some linguists consider it practically its own language.
Reflecting centuries of isolation.
Exactly. If you want proof of Jeju's distinct path, just listen. They literally sound different.
And specific local words capture that unique culture, like Ali.
Right. Ollie, it means a narrow path, like from the street to a house gate. A very local, intimate word.
But now it's known internationally for the walking trails.
The Jeju Olgil trails, yeah.
Wow.
It perfectly connects the people to the pathways carved through their unique landscape. It's a beautiful concept exported.
And looking at iconic locations reinforces this whole state versus nature thing. Wonsan boasts things like the Songdown International Children's Camp.
Which is a rare site for state-approved cultural exchange.
And the port, the lighthouse, modern infrastructure. It's also near Mount Kumgang, which is poignant.
Poignant, yeah, because it was once open to South Koreans. A symbol of what could have been.
Whereas Jeju's icons are, well, geological wonders.
Absolutely. Hausa Mountain, Korea's highest peak. Songsan Ilchulbong, that volcanic sunrise peak UNESCO site. Monjango lava tube, one of the longest in the world.
So Wonsan's landmarks are mostly man-made or state-managed. Jeju's are ancient, raw expressions of nature's power.
That's a good way to put it.
Which, thinking about sound, how does the state narrative in Wonsan influence what it sounds like? What's the soundtrack?
Wonsan's soundscape, musically, is very standardized. Think revolutionary operas, big choir pieces.
And lots of brass.
Lots of brass-heavy anthems. It's music for the collective. Big, bold, maybe a bit imposing.
The instruments mirror that naval focus, right? Trumpets, marching snare drums.
Steady marching rhythms, yeah.
Yeah.
Deep droning synths, sometimes mentioned too. The themes are meant to be hardship, pride, resilience, but always under state direction. It's music as a state tool.
Glorifying the soldier sailors of Wonsan.
Exactly. The purpose is pure propaganda. Like an anthem about the blockade might say, the sea rose above the ashes, the steel-like people stood. It's about turning suffering to ideological fuel.
Okay, they flipped to Jeju's soundtrack, which sounds wild, all over the place, reflecting that complex history.
It's incredibly eclectic. You've got everything from ancient Haenyeo work chants.
The songs they used to time their dives.
Right, rhythmic, functional songs for breathing and working together. Then you jump to modern K-pop ballads filmed on the island, indie folk, even something described as cinematic pop-punk.
That fusion sounds fascinating. Traditional instruments.
Like the jangu drum, the gaegeum zither.
Mixed with, what, oceanic sounds and distortion?
Yeah, oceanic rhythms, field recordings of waves, maybe stone clicks, and then this grungy distortion, which the notes suggest is meant to evoke, like, volcanic power.
So Jeju's music isn't state instruction, it's emotional processing. Resilience, okay, but also grief.
Grief, definitely. Freedom, escape, a certain melancholy maybe. There's this idea that comes through. The wind never rests, the soul does not die. It's about endurance, but on its own terms.
So what's the takeaway here? Wonsan Sentine sings a state-approved anthem of strength. Jeju sings a complex, sometimes mournful song, mixing ancient breaths with modern noise, embodying this restless, independent spirit.
I think that brings us to the core synthesis. Both places are defined by the sea, absolutely. Both show incredible resilience. But Wonsan channels that resilience through the state narrative, military might, using modernity as a display. Jeju, physically and politically separate, filters its resilience through ancient ways, the Hanyo's unique labor, its own endangered language, its specific, often painful history.
We've definitely hit on some memorable points. The old Tamna Kingdom, the tragedy of the uprising, that kerosene BBQ,
The sheer length of the 800-day blockade.
the power of the Hanyo, the fragility of the Jawiyo language. You really see how ideology and geography weave together to create these two completely different realities, side by side on the peninsula.
Yeah, the political system acts like a filter, amplifying some parts of the heritage, suppressing others.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final thought to chew on. Mount Kumgang, near Wonsan, was briefly open to Southerners. Both Wonsan and Jeju share the same sea, a shared history of conflict at different times. So how much does the actual geography, the coast, the sea, the mountains, truly define a place's culture versus the political system that ultimately controls how that culture is allowed to breathe and express itself? Something to ponder.